Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to the Team Coaching Circle. It's so good to see such a strong turnout and seeing so many of you at the start of a year here really speaks to the strength of this community and the relevance of the topic, which we're going to explore today. I want to wish you all a very happy new year. Welcome to 2026. I hope that year started gently for you and that this session feels like a generative way to step back into the professional learning and connection. My name is Agla Holton. I am the host of Team Coaching Circle Community. And for those who are new to this space, Team Coaching Circle is a almost 800 member strong community, which is designed to bring team coaching practitioners together beyond a specific school, specific framework, discipline, or even accreditation body, into one space for connecting, for learning, and exploring. Each month, we meet to share knowledge, to share tools, case studies, examples of interventions, with the aim to deepen the practice of team coaching and learn from one another. And this initiative is supported by ICF Ireland chapter. Today, we're going to explore a story that many of us rarely get to hear in full. We're going to learn about the multi-year journey of how coaching and more recently team coaching was embedded as a strategic leadership capability inside a really complex mission critical system. So I'm really delighted to welcome Brendan McGuinness, Brigadier General in the Irish Defence Forces, who has played a pivotal role in seeding, nurturing, and scaling this work of more than a decade. So welcome, Brendan.
Thank you, Egle.
Really delighted to have you on this call. And I think that we have most of the people landed now. And I wanted to share a bit of the arc for the next 60 minutes or so. First of all, together with Brendan, we'll have a conversation, maybe 20, 25 minutes conversation. And afterwards, we'll move into the smaller breakout reflection groups. Then we'll come back to the collective debrief for Q&As. And finally, I'll close with sharing what's next for Team Coaching Circle and ICF CCE units. So we designed the session as a conversation, not a presentation, and we'd like to really listen into the story and see what resonates for you. Brendan.
Thanks, Egle. It's a great pleasure and a privilege actually to be here this afternoon to talk to all the people attending the webinar. So thank you all for your time. I suppose the Defence Forces are a military organisation, and our story is, I think, interesting from a coaching perspective. So I'm very happy to have those conversations with you. And some of the key themes that we'll probably explore will include that leadership piece, transformation and cultural change within the organization, the coaching and how it was, I suppose, where it started, how it then was seeded across the organization, and over time has brought about significant change. And through myself and a small group of very committed and passionate colleagues, and one of them is online here this afternoon, Yvonne Carney, we've managed to do this with organizational support. So as I say, I hope it proves interesting from both the coaching practitioner perspective, but probably also from the systemic organizational perspective. And maybe that's part of the interest around this particular story.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Brendan, for sharing this. And if I were to invite us to start at the very beginning of how it all evolved, from the genesis of the program, would you be able to share how did it all begin in Defence Forces?
Certainly. I suppose very simply, there's a little story I tell. I was sitting fortuitously, I suppose, in hindsight, in a role in our HR department. And a flyer came in from a college providing a diploma on coaching, actually, not team coaching, but coaching. And as I say, I read it And I was absolutely fascinated. And as I was reading down through it in academic, non-military speak, I sort of said, this is absolutely powerful. And if we can translate or bring this piece into our organization, it can be extremely helpful and transformative. So that's how it started. So then I started my own, I suppose, personal coaching learning journey. And over the last 10, 12 years, that's paralleled where the organizational story has come. So that was the genesis in 2013, 14. And then it was that gentle seeding of using, I suppose, systemic knowledge. And I think this is part of it. The person who, or the people who are involved in trying to grow the coaching in the organization, a couple of points in our experience that were important were the motivation for doing it, where it sits in the organization, and there are decisions around that, as in where might it best flourish, rather than just put it somewhere and see does it thrive or not. And then things like resilience, patience, because we're a military organization, so we have clear and defined military outputs, and anything that gets in the way of that may not survive. So it had to be carefully crafted as to how it would sit and flourish in the organization.
Thanks for sharing this. And I suppose that these themes which you've mentioned would resonate with many of coaches in this room in the early seeding phase of the initiative. And the real challenge might come when the work starts to grow,
Mhm.
right? So that kind of brings in a way into the next phase of this work. How did you manage to scale the program once you seeded that
Sure.
initial thought?
There was a couple of things, and this all happened in parallel, I suppose. And there is a slide which perhaps we might show slightly later, which offers a real a slide developed by Yvonne here online, which shows the journey. It's like a meandering river over time, so you can get a sense of it there. So you can see the 2014, and that's where that Genesis piece started, and then slowly we moved through those subsequent layers. Uh, a key part of this was we hung it on leadership. We identified an area that was central, a really powerful pillar in the organization. And for a military organization, leadership is a key pillar. So that was a key decision at the start and has proven successful. That was powerful. We then moved on, and this was being, I suppose, nurtured and minded by a very small group. I mean, it moved. It was an ad hoc group. None of us were doing or working on coaching as our day job. I mean, I had different roles in human resources, and then I ended up fortuitously again in education throughout the following years. And again, fortuitously, my position in the organization offered me an ability to influence and a voice that helped, I suppose, grow this. Concurrent with that, Yvonne did her master's, and we developed a top-down, bottom-up scenario again. And this comes from systemic knowledge. What would work in the particular organization? And it'll be a different story for every organization. So, from a coaching perspective, I suppose maybe the little tip might be the people that are trying to generate or offer the coaching, how well equipped are they to survive and work within the system? That might be a key thing. We were quite well served in our organization in that we had a small group of people who did have that service and systemic knowledge. We then had that top down, bottom up. So we seeded it in education. And along the leadership, we have a system called career courses, so that every senior NCO and officer will go through a career course over a couple of years. And we managed to link coaching, education, and a sense of what coaching and mentoring are into that. And then it sort of grew and grew from there. So that's then through the years of that, that 17, 18, 19. So that was how we sort of scaled it initially. But there was another big decision then. But I'll pause there for a moment.
Thank you, Brendan. As I'm listening to you, I'm hearing that kind of that enabler education as enabling factor was played a critical role in bringing that capability into the system. And I'm really curious, was it a particular moment, the tipping point where you sense that, yes, the system is ready now to really take it to the full?
We were in it for a few years. We were in that sort of growth, gentle growth development piece. But then there was, I suppose, a couple of key areas. We got significant senior buy-in there in 2018, 19, where our small group went and spoke to our general staff, so our chiefs, and they were very impressed with the work, and they understood because there was a sense that there was going to have to be a transformation and a cultural change in our organization because many of our systems were very, very antiquated. And there was people had a sense of it without maybe having clear definition. But coaching and mentoring clearly aligned with change of culture and transformation in the organization. So we did get significant, I suppose, approvals there. And the other point was concurrent with the rolling out, we were harvesting information. So again, Yvonne and our colleagues on the team, we were harvesting questionnaires and data back from the people who were engaged in one-to-one coaching, our seniors, and then feedback from the people on the courses who we were giving a generic education to about what coaching and mentoring might be like and how it might be available to them to add value and effort and effect to their leadership style. So there didn't have to just be the old-fashioned command and control style of leadership, that this new dimension to leadership, which was more relational, might have better effect in many instances. So that was great. The next big step was a contract. We actually came to a point in the early 2022, 23, where again we got, I suppose, the green light to go and get an external contractor to help us because we had come to the capacity of our little group internally. And that was a sea change. So in that 22, 23 period, we contracted a group called Distinctions Coaching, a professional coaching company, and they came on board, and the injection of energy was palpable. For me, it was just a tremendous sense of relief because I was now handing over, I won't say responsibility, but I was handing over a lot of the effort and pushing the rock up the hill to a professional organization in terms of the one-to-one coaching and vitally team coaching. We had clearly identified within our group that team coaching was actually where we really wanted to get, because that was going to have an exponentially powerful ripple effect through the organization where teams would come and then be in a coaching environment with a professional coach and all of the team dynamics, the psychological safety, the engagements, the relationships would then be open to development and potential positive change. So that's where we've actually come to now. And it's really, really powerful.
Lovely. And it sounds like the system had to learn new ways over time of relating before team coaching could really land land there. And team coaching being a newer chapter in the story, a very important one, I wonder, what are you hearing so far from your leaders, from managers who are being exposed to team
Mhm.
coaching at the moment?
I'll pick up on that one in a moment if I may, but you're absolutely right. The first point is really important. I think if we had tried to land team coaching back earlier on that journey, certainly any time before, and of course everybody was subject to COVID. So I mean, we all went into a state of flux between sort of 2020 and 2023. So in fact, before 2020, I don't think our organization would have been ready for it. Our committee probably weren't able for it and we wouldn't have had the contractor to help us bring that professionalism and that energy and that extra professional dimension to it. So it wouldn't have worked. So that's why that resilience and that patience piece is really powerful in this particular story. But then now, where we are now, we are a full year into team coaching, and we have a pilot running with three teams engaged with our professional service provider distinctions. And the feedback is very positive. Three very diverse different teams. Feedback from the coaches is very dynamic and very good, and feedback from the team leaders is similarly very, very, I suppose, positive is the overall word. It is different for each team. because the teams vary. Obviously, there's one smaller, compact team, and then there's two larger teams. So again, the personal dynamics and the situation and the roles that those teams play are all factors in how this is going. But certainly, I mean, nothing has caused us on initial feedback to be concerned about anything other than we need to refine, continue, get more teams into the system, and as I say, learn as we go along, which is actually what we've been doing since 2014, 15, along those pillars of the leadership, the cultural change, and now we're in a full-on organizational transformation. So the coaching and mentoring is a powerful enabler. And most recently, what we've actually been able to do is when I say sell it, we offer it, the one-to-one coaching particularly, we offer it to our senior leadership across the officer and NCO ranks as a developmental opportunity and a payback from the organization. So this is a voluntary piece whereby every NCO, senior NCO and senior officers are offered this opportunity to have a one-to-one professional relationship with a professional coach. So it is a real I suppose, organizational appreciation and sense of gratitude. And we have pitched it on that basis, and it's been very well received so far.
Lovely. And it looks like that the whole program is really reaching the different level of maturity.
Mhm.
And I wonder, as this work continues in your organization, what's next? What are you seeing? How it's going to evolve?
Okay, thank you. And yes, we have high levels of ambition. I mean, some of the points I haven't said because there's in a story over 10 or 12 years, there's so much material. But for example, in that space there around 2018, 2019, where we got that very senior general staff approval, we were busying away in our little ad hoc group. And I'm talking about six, eight, never more than 10 people outside their day job. We wrote policy documents, we wrote strategic documents about how coaching and mentoring would be nested and seeded and help and contribute to organizational outputs. Again, aligned to that leadership pillar and embedded in our doctrine. For those of you who have any knowledge of military, you'll understand doctrine is really important. It's foundational guidance documents that everybody gets to know and gets to learn and has to learn, in fact, to be as part of their professional competence. And so, to your question, the ambition, the levels of ambition is accreditation. Yvonne has just qualified as a program manager with the EMCC, and we're following some of our organizations that we've got to know and befriend within Ireland, some of our national utility body, the ESB. We've got huge support and contact from the HSE and accreditation. We now aspire to, and we're going to follow getting our programs accredited with the EMCC, in fact. And so that will be a okay. I think we seem to have lost Egle.
Apologies. Apologies. I'm back.
Okay, Egle, welcome.
Apologies. It's just so funny because just before this session, we're kind of laughing with Brendan
That's
that,
right.
one of the moments which you kind of fear most is technical issues. So I think that that's one of those moments. So apologies for getting lost for a moment, but here I am. Brendan, where did we leave? Mhm.
Well, I just finished the points about the ambition and where we hope to take the
Lovely.
programs in terms of the accreditation, developing the team coaching, and continuing the one-to-one on the basis of, I suppose, payback and developmental opportunity for our senior officers and NCOs.
Lovely. So that's fantastic. And just before we kind of launch into the reflection breakout groups, What would be great to hear is that what would be your advice? What would be your tips in for anyone who might be looking to embed similar scale coaching programs into their organizations? What would you suggest to think about,
Certainly. Well,
reflect
the
upon?
learning from me and our committee from the Defence Forces side is that um, I suppose a certain level of resilience and patience was critically important. The bright star can very much burn out. We would like to say our the slow and steady was really important. And Yvonne is smiling there. I'm going to mention a phrase we have now developed as strategic patience, which I would have used over a number of years when there might have been a lot of enthusiasm to move ahead and bound ahead. But we didn't have the capacity or the ability to go beyond a certain pace because of we were just this smaller ad hoc group. Another point I would make is that point I said at the start is the people who are actually whether they're charged with leading it or choose to lead it. There's a couple of things that certainly served us well. Um, the motivation for it, the purpose. What is coaching to do? What do you want to achieve through the coaching? And I keep saying coaching and mentoring because that was our organization. It may be one or other or both in the other organizations. What is the key purpose? And has it got I suppose their buy-in? Is there a champion? Is there someone who's prepared to take this point on to, a board of directors or whatever the system is and deal or champion that? That was really positive and powerful. And then system knowledge. Is this person very knowledgeable in the system? I mean, if it's someone who has very little experience or is new to an organization, it may founder on the rocks of, how systems work or how organizations work. Um, Key decisions for us were the leadership piece, the education piece, and another point that I'm not sure I said, we didn't nest it somewhere. There was a constant conversation about should we put coaching and mentoring into the HR function or into the training function. And because of the nature of our organization and how it was focus driven, mission driven, task driven, and people weren't maybe familiar with what coaching and mentoring were and how they had this massive potential in the relational piece with people, it might have got trampled on or put to one side. And I think that probably was a very good decision. Whereas now we have it embedded in our strategic HR organization, and it is a key part of our transformational piece and seen and understood and accepted as a massively powerful developmental opportunity for individuals and for teams.
Thanks for sharing, Brendan. I love that the strategic patience element, the champions, the stewardship and sponsorship, the educational component, and also being very strategic, how it's embedded in the organization at what time, so that it's not being trampled, as you said, early stages of this. Lovely. So I suppose that it brings us to the point where we would like to invite everyone to kind of launch into the breakout reflections. Unless, Brendan, you wanted to share something before we brief everyone about the discussion?
No, I suppose I just offer, um, I suppose one of the dimensions of this story is that it
Mm.
has a perspective from the perspective of a coach who might be invited in to coach in a military environment, or then from someone who is actually within a system and looking to get coaching in from a professional contractor. So we have that experience of seeing both sides of that, in that we had coaches within our group, qualified coaches. And interestingly, we chose not to coach internally. And that whole dilemma or question, which is I know is out there, of do you do internal coaching or get the external one? We chose external coaching, but it was key to have people who were coaches inside, because then we had I suppose, a theoretical and an academic understanding of what we were actually seeking from the contractor and could explain it and translate it. And that's one of the key phrases actually that I'll come back on after people come back, is that word lexicon. the lexicon or the description, the common understanding of what coaching means. And if I was to pick one thing that we did, and it was so important for us and our committee, it was to act as translators from the coaching academically and theoretically and practically into how it would survive contact and serve to bring about cultural change and transformation in a military environment. So that is obviously something that will have to be done in any organization. So that might be something worthy of conversation later on.